Hello, hello, hello. Dr. Alan Harper here, your secure vibe coder. It is December 31st, 2025, and we are on the verge of a new year, and we are live vibe coding. We're going to bring in the new year vibe coding. Actually, I'm just going to go for about an hour or so. And we've been vibe coding this app. It's called uservibesOS.ai. And the purpose of this app is to be an AI enhanced one stop shop for developers to collect vibes from users throughout the journey or the user journey lifecycle. And this is super important because as your users come to your site, whether they hit the landing page or maybe they hit a survey that you set up for them or a wait list or email list or any number of things. What if one of your users is trying to hack you? You'd probably like to know that, right? What if they're messing with the website and you're one of your customers? You'd probably like to know that, and you currently have no way of knowing that. Okay. What if that user has feature requests and bug reports that they want to get to you, but you have no good way to put that together for them or to get that out of them? So that's why we built this, or we're building this app, right? And our MVP is the feature, excuse me, the feedback module here, and it takes feature requests and bug reports. Okay. And we have that working pretty well. It's AI enhanced because it's in our name. We have to do this with AI. And the reason why we're using AI, we're leveraging AI is instead of just having the user come and fill out a form, we're going to have a conversation with them. And we're going to get to the reason why they have the feature request or why the bug report is acting the way that it's acting. It's that reason why that the developer is often struggling to deal with, particularly if they're just looking at a form input, right? If you just give a user like a title and a description field, that's all they're going to give you, and if you give them 4 or 5 more fields, they probably would just quit and not fill it out. But if you have a conversation with them, then you can meet them where they're at. And that's the magic of what we're building here. Guys, nobody else is doing that. No one else is particularly putting all of these signals together from the user in one spot. And that's what is special about what we're doing. Okay. Again, uservibesOS.ai. If you've joined me tonight, drop a hello. Let me know you're out there. Tell me where you're from. Love when people communicate with me. If you want to find out more about me, you can check out my free mentoring in that QR code up above my head or in the link in the description below. And you'll find out, more about me. I've been in cybersecurity for 36 years, and I've written 7 best-selling books on cybersecurity. The most popular one is called Gray Hat Hacking: The Ethical Hacker's Handbook. And so I've been doing cyber since before most of you have been born, and well before they called it cybersecurity. We used to call it computer security, then network security, then information security. And then somewhere along the way, about halfway through my career, they started calling it cybersecurity. And when I first heard that phrase, I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. But now, hey, look at look at what I know. So again, been there, done that, all aspects of the field. And I can tell you that, all of cybersecurity boils down to code. It's either bad design of code, bad implementation of code, bad testing of code, bad maintenance of code, bad deployment of code, bad people using bad code, right? And so eventually you got to fix the code. And so that's been traditionally really hard to do. But because of vibe coding, now anyone can code. That's a blessing, but also a curse to the world because anyone can code, right? And these people don't even understand the first thing about cybersecurity, let alone how to spell it. And that's a dangerous situation. So very quickly, now we're handing these loaded shotguns to everyone and saying, "Go build your app," right? And people are like me are saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! If we're going to do that, which I believe we should do that, then let's do it securely," right? I do believe that there's an app inside of everyone, and for many of us, there's many apps in there just trying to get out. Everyone has something that they desire, some problem to solve that that they haven't been able to solve, and an app could help them solve that problem more than likely. And if they could get it out, maybe they'll help others solve a problem. And if you solve enough people's problems, they will solve yours. How about that? And that's a tried and true business concept. All right. So that's what we're about here on this channel is secure vibe coding. All right. It's in the name. You can learn about vibe coding in many places, but you won't learn about the cybersecurity stuff that we're going to talk about here. I can promise you that. All right. So what we've been working on is a list of features. And the way our app works is like this. We have a front end JavaScript module. The users come to our landing page, they can sign up. We currently don't have, we have the credit cards disabled at the moment. But then once they get in, they can set up an API key and then they can set up feedback boards. All right. And again, this comes back to this feedback right here. And so that they could set up a board for each one of their websites, for example. And then what they'll do is they'll install, there'll be instructions in there of how they can embed a widget into their website. And they can then start to participate in this platform and start to capture these vibes, right? And so that's what we're building here once again. If you've joined me, drop me a note and tell me hello. Love to see who's out there. We use Convex on the back end. Convex ties everything together for us. Right now, there's two types of API calls that we make. There's the public and secret. All right. We call this tier one security that uses the public key. Okay. So we pass that public key from the client to the backend server and we validate it on the back end and make sure that that's a valid public key that's been created by the developer. And oh, by the way, when the developer creates the API key, they have to tell us the domains that they're coming from because that key is tied to that. Okay, so if somebody were to try to steal that key and intercept it because they could, it is a public key. That's the purpose of it, is to be in the public. If someone steals that key or intercepts it, they won't be able to use it from another domain. That's part of our security architecture because, again, we are secure vibe coders. All right. And then there's something we call tier two security mode, and that uses a secret key. Okay. And then the developer would take that secret key and they will turn it into a Java Web Token, a JWT. They would sign that key with their secret key or that JWT with their secret key. And then they'll pass that over. Okay. And then we will validate that on the back end. That's a more secure way of doing it. And we call that level 2 security mode. All right. Now, we also have this thing working to where if the user doesn't want to do a widget, if they want, they can just point their users to our website. And we've set up a special page for them that they can just point and they can brand it and color it and so forth. And so they can set, like, they can point their users to, these feature boards if they want, if they just want to do it that way as well. All right. So now, what I want you to understand is that we have multiple layers to our security model. Okay, we start with something called a secure vibe coding OS. Okay, I'm going to be talking more about that tonight. So this is going to be a special session tonight. I don't know how much coding we're going to get in, but we're going to talk about some really cool stuff that I've been working on that I'm excited to share with you guys. Okay, and so we start with a secure vibe coding OS. I have a new version of that now. And then we add on top of that secure prompting, meaning that whenever we're going to create a feature, we do it securely through secure prompting. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We use Claude Skills for that. We use Claude Code for everything that we do. I happen to run it inside of Anti-Gravity at the moment, but I could care less about Anti-Gravity. It's just it's the most stable IDE. It hasn't crashed on me yet, except for once. And so that's why I use it. But I could really care less about which IDE I use. I used Cursor before, I've used Windsurf, and I've used just straight up Visual Studio or Visual Code. They're all forks of Visual Code anyway. So what difference does it make? All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to run security scans and reviews. We have agents on the system on the Secure Vibe Coding OS that does that for us. Okay. Then what we do is we put GitHub workflows in place. So when these things get pushed up to GitHub, we run another security review there. And so, and then we publish it on Vercel, which gives us like a web application firewall out in front of us. So if somebody's trying to do a DOS attack or something, we have protection there. So these multiple layers of security is what makes this a secure vibe coded app. Okay, now there's a lot more to it. I'm simplifying it here, but you get the point that an attacker has to work through all of these layers of security if they're going to get to our data. Okay, and that's what makes us different than those other vibe coders are out there just slinging code. We are regularly reminded, even with the best model that we have, which is Claude Code Opus 4.5, by far the most capable model out there. It still tries, it has a propensity to go ahead and try to put stuff out there that's insecure. We catch it with our security scans and reviews. That's how I know that it's happening. But if you weren't scanning and running those reviews, you'd have no clue that that was happening. And you're putting code out there that's vulnerable, and that stuff starts to stack up. We call it tech debt, but it's like security debt. Like you have like multiple vulnerabilities, and the period of time that they're out there matters, and it just kind of compounds over time, and that's how you end up getting hacked. All right. Once again, if you've joined me tonight, drop a hello and tell me you're out there. Tell me who you are and where you're from. I appreciate it. Some people in the world it's already January 1st for them, and that's exciting. It's a little after 8 p.m. It's 8:12 here on the East Coast of the U.S. where I'm located, and I'd like to know where you're from. And some people here are already in the new year, and so I celebrate with you a few hours early. We're going to wrap up here within about an hour, and we'll get you back to your party. So thank you once again for joining us. Now, exciting stuff I have to share with you guys. All right. As a treat for you guys joining us tonight, I'm going to share some secret sauce that you're not going to find many other places out there, and a new version of my Secure Vibe Coding OS. Okay. Now, first of all, what is the Secure Vibe Coding OS? So I have built, and you'll find a link in the repo to this free GitHub repository that's called the Secure Vibe Coding OS. And the purpose of it is to be a secure Next.js starter kit. Next.js is the most popular model out there. I'd fight anyone on that. It is by far the most popular and most capable web tool out there. All right. And if you want to do something that's mobile responsive that works on mobile devices too, then Next.js is your tool of choice. It's a React framework, but we start with a locked down hardened version of it. Okay. And then what we do is we put all of this stuff in it. You get Clerk to do the user authentication because they're the best in the business right now. And Clerk also handles the billing for us. It handles all the Stripe integration because that's a nightmare. We don't have to mess with that. Okay, we use Convex is a real-time database. Forget Postgres. Forget you ever even heard of it. I've dropped that like a rock. It's so 1980s. Okay, and it doesn't scale. Guys, if you're doing a real-time app, good luck if you're using Postgres, man. Your app is going to be slow, and we're going to come out and we're going to take your customers off of you. Okay, so you can do that if you like. Hey, Don Marie, good to see you from California. All right. Oh, you're in Leon. GTO Max saw you were live. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Hey, thanks for joining. Yeah, again, we're just going to go here for about 45 minutes, and we're all going to get back to our parties. All right. Now, the other thing that I've given you here is what I call the security batteries. Take a look here. All of this stuff is the heart of the Secure Vibe Coding OS. And it gives you all of this stuff right out of the box. So you don't have to worry about it as much. You need to know what it is so that you can make sure that it's being implemented. So what we do is we trust but verify here. because the models will lie to you. They'll say, "Oh yeah, that stuff's good, it's secure," and then you run it another model against it, and it'll say, "No, you got all these issues." We see this all the time. Okay, this is part of this is because AI is non-deterministic, which is a fancy way of saying you could run AI 10 times in a row, and each time it's going to give you a different output, a different set of code, a different way of doing it. It's non deterministic. Okay. So, what we do is we put some more determinism in it. And what we do by we put some guardrails around it. Okay. And we make sure that, like, and we do this using the very latest technology, which is Claude Code Skills. Okay. If you haven't gotten up on Claude Code Skills, you really are cheating yourself, right? And you're doing it the hard way. Okay. You're vibe coding the hard way if you're not using Claude Code and skills. Okay. Because what skills do is they give you something called progressive discovery. Okay. Instead of filling up your context window with all kinds of useless junk and making you have to get into the dumb zone. Okay. There's something in LLMs that works like this. Let me show you something. Okay, the way LLMs work is they have this thing called a context window. Okay, every model is different. Some of them are 200K. That's what the Claude models typically are. They have a million context window, but it turns out like context size is actually not all that good of a thing. The bigger it is, the more problems you have. Why? Because in the context window, they fill up the first part of it with the system prompt. You typically can't get to that. You typically that's provided by like Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever, and they put like guardrails in there to make sure that you, in theory, can't like learn what that system prompt is. Now, there's a whole genre of hackers out there called prompt engineers that have learned how to jailbreak these systems and make them spit up their system prompt. And if you want to learn about that, it's go check out this site called hackaprompt.com. And they have it's free training out there, and they also run competitions where like once a quarter, so they pay big bucks for people to like break these models. So yeah, that's a thing. Okay, but we do the best we can with the tools that we have. There's below the system prompt, you can put your user prompts. Okay, and then you can have a conversation back and forth with the LLM. Now, the other thing that gets loaded up in here in the top of your context are like any MCPs that you're running. That's that model context protocol that's been popular for the last year, but they take up big chunks of your context. If you have a huge Claude.md file, that takes up a huge portion of your context window, and you're just killing yourself, right? For no good reason, because you're starting the conversation, your context is already halfway full. And there's this dilemma out there that they don't fully understand, that if you run this context window past the halfway point, it enters what we call the dumb zone. Like that model like is not as sharp as it was when it was fresh and it had an empty context. It gets dumber the more that you fill it. In fact, if you get it up here 70, 80%, like that model is like acting like it did 6 months or a year ago. Like that model, it's acting like that model, that previous model. It's not as sharp. Okay. And they don't fully understand that, which is just mind blowing to me. There's a few things about these models that they just don't fully understand how it works. And that's like humbling, but also pretty scary. Because, like, what is in there that they haven't found yet? Right. All right. That's another topic for another day. But my point is that you want to be very efficient then whenever you're doing your context engineering, we call it. Okay, you want to be very deliberative of what you load into your context, what you don't. So that's where Claude Skills comes in. Okay, now Gemini has started to do something like this, Google, but Codex is not. So those of you who are in love with like Codex and all, like deal with this. Like there is no such thing as like a skills equivalent over there with Codex. Now there is a project called Open Skills where you can somewhat get around this, but the guys who are pushing the envelope and are ahead of this curve are Anthropic. So if you're going to be a serious vibe coder, I would challenge you to get on with Claude Code and the latest models, which is Opus 4.5, as soon as quick as possible. Now they're not free, but you're going to pay for it either with your time or your money. And I promise you, your time it's infinitely more valuable than your money. Okay. Think about that. You can't buy another second on this planet. But what you can do is you can buy back the seconds you've been given already, right? And you can use them wisely. And that's what I'm all about. So that's where the Claude skills come in, because instead of filling up your context window like an MCP would, what they do is they just fill up the top part of the skill, which is called the description section. It's in a format called YAML. You don't have to worry about that, YAML. But up there in that top section, is a description and some keywords, and it only loads those up into the context. So what ends up happening is you start with, like, a 20% context window instead of a 50% full. Okay. And that is huge. And then as you're having your conversation, if it hits one of those keywords, then it progressively discovers the rest of the skill only when it needs it. Okay. It's like just in time hydration of the context based on the skills. Okay. That is super powerful, guys. Like, this is the difference between the end of 2025 and the beginning and where we were a year ago, is these skills. Okay. So if you're following someone or you're taking a course or whatever, and they're not heavily leaning into this Claude Code skills thing, you're missing it. Okay. You're not doing the latest and greatest. And I'm running laps around you and those people then. Okay. And then ultimately, you're going to lose that competition, right? So you want to be on the bleeding edge and just one step off the cliff. Like, that's where you want to be in this space, because it's moving so fast. All right. Now, so we've been implementing all of this stuff, and now I want to get to the good stuff for you. Okay. So today I released a new version of this Secure Vibe Coding OS. Okay. If you come onto this page, again, link in the description. Okay. You will find down here, somewhere over here, it says releases. Oh, that's interesting. Hold on. I got to refresh. I'm like, that doesn't look right. Okay. Yeah. Scared me there for a second. All right. So I have a release version 2.0. Okay. If you click on that, what you'll find is all of the new skills and capabilities that I've, like, supercharged this thing once more. And I'm going to continue to evolve this. There'll be a 3.0, 4.0 eventually, and so forth. All right. Now check this out. About earlier today, about 8 hours ago, I built this. All right. And it has these new skills and new commands available to it. Okay. Now, why did I do this? Let's go back to the whiteboard here. I want to talk to you about something. I want to talk to you about a problem with AI. Okay. This is a problem with AI. So you start and you have a context window, and you start coding today, and you get a number of things done. Okay. Then you come tomorrow and you start up Claude Code again. And guess what? You get a new context window. And then the next day, or maybe a couple of days later, you start up another Claude Code and you start over. You're always starting over at zero. Like, so if this were zero here, okay, and this over here were progress. Okay. Every day that you come in and start a session, you start over at zero. It's like speaking to someone who has, like there's a disease. I need to learn what the name of it is. They made a movie about it. And this lady, she got in a car accident, and every day her memory was wiped. Every morning she woke up, she didn't know who or what she was, what her name was. She couldn't build a relationship. So this whole movie was, I think it's called 50 First Dates or something like that. And the actors in the movie are like, every day he has to show up and get her to fall in love with him again. That's what talking to an LLM is like. Have you ever noticed that? It's like talking to someone is who has no memory. Okay, 50 first dates. There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's what it's like. 50 first dates. Every time you talk to an LLM, it's like they're like, "Hello, who are you?" And you're like, "Oh, here we go again." Like, I just explained this to you yesterday, right? Short-term memory loss. That's right. All right. Now, so Here's the thing. What if I could show you a way that every day you came in, you picked up here, and every new session you started, you picked up here, and so on and so forth, so that Claude got smarter over time and remembered more the more you used it. Are you listening? Are you paying attention yet? Okay, this is huge, guys. Not a lot of people out there are talking about this. Okay, there's a couple, but not very many. Okay. One of the secrets of skills that do that progressive discovery that we talked about is that skills can be used to overwrite other skills. Okay. So what you could do is you could and you can also create new skills with skills. The first skill that Anthropic released was the skill generation skill. Okay. And yeah, hey, on GitHub, you can see the link in the description here, and you can get that link to what I've released today. Okay, the Secure Vibe Coding OS, and you can also find out about my mentoring group where I have 8,000 people, just short of 8,000 people, learning how to do this stuff, and then inside of there's a classroom, and you can get access to my Secure Vibe Coding Masterclass. So that's all inside of my school group. All right. But check this out, guys. So this skills capability here gives us the ability to do this. All right. Now let me just show you something. Ultimately, what is the skills? You need to understand this just for a second. Okay. So they came out with this back like in October. It's just a few months ago. Okay. So there's a whole blog article out here, and they talk about what these skills are. Okay. So, what a skill ultimately, this is the format of it. Like I was telling you, it has this YAML format at the top. It just basically means it has these dashes and these tags and stuff. It's just the format of the file. This is all in a markdown file called skill. Okay, and you can put them in folders. This is one for PDF, and then you use Markdown, which is like this, format of text where like this is a header, that's a level 2 header, for example, and then this is a code block. Okay, so you write this, but guess what? You don't even need to know how to write it. You can have Claude Code write it for you. You can say, create a skill for me that does X, Y, and Z, and it will do that. Okay, huge. Now, other things that you can do in a skill is a skill can call tools, and a skill can call other like skills and other commands. It's like recursive in that nature. Let me see. I'm trying to get to the bottom here to see if they show the actual okay, over here. Okay, they talk a lot here about the progressive discovery and all that. But what I want you to know is inside of a skills folder, you can also have scripts, and the skill can call those scripts. And the more scripting that you do, like, then the less you're leaving up to the model, then you're getting more prescriptive and more deterministic, and you're getting a more repeatable and reliable outcome. Okay, so this is huge, guys. All right, now let me show you. Then let me get to the point. So what I did was I built a three-part system, okay, that's going to allow this thing to have self-improving memory over time. Okay, so first of all, I keep track of all of the ongoing lessons learned in this folder right here called skills lessons. Why am I doing it in the skills? Because of that progressive discovery hack, so that we don't have to fill up our context. Okay, so that's the first building block, is that we have a lessons library, okay, that I purposefully put in this folder. You can replicate this. You can call it whatever you want. Then two other pieces. I have this command that I gave it. A command's just a fancy way of putting a prompt in a file that you can repeat. Anything that you're doing, you should only do something once with Claude Code. If you find yourself, my rule is if I do it 3 times, like, it's time to turn it into a skill or turn it into a command or do something so that I don't have to keep repeating myself, right? And keep remembering, like, what was the prompt for that? And then I have to like keep a notes like somewhere. Like, forget all that. If you find yourself doing something multiple times, you need to start turning that in, taking that prompt or those series of sequence of prompts and turning them into commands and skills and agents. Okay. And there's other things you can do. But these are the building blocks. Okay. Now, This command right here, which I'll show you here in a moment, it's called the advise command. So before you do any kind of major task, like, if tonight we were going to build some new feature, I would say slash advise, and I would say, describe to me how I would build X, Y, and Z. And what it'll do is it'll go out, that command will go out and review all of the recent lessons learned and all of the other skills that we've accumulated. Because right there within the Secure Vibe Coding OS, I've already given you like a bunch of security skills. Okay. So it's going to review all of those and it's going to give you a concise printout of that into your prompt. And what that does is that essentially primes the pump of the context window with relevant, lesson learned, recent learned stuff. Okay. And that way it doesn't have to experiment and keep learning the same lessons over and over again. You've already got it. You've already learned those lessons. Okay. So, very important step. We do the slash advise, and then we say, tell me how I would build a secure landing page, for example. And it'll go out through all of the skills and it'll progressively discover the ones that are relevant. It'll summarize all of that into a nice, concise statement that goes into the top of your context window. Then you say, okay, go ahead and now build that plan out, and let's iterate on that plan. You go into plan mode, and then you have Claude Code like build that plan out further, and then you say, okay, now execute whenever you're satisfied with it. Okay, and that's the latest and greatest technique of how to do vibe coding now. Okay, now when you execute this plan, I promise you things will surprise you. Like, it's non-deterministic. So even though it said it had a plan, it might not follow the plan 100%. It may decide halfway through the plan that it needed a couple more steps and that ends up breaking something. Okay? LLMs do this, right? And so it goes off for 5 minutes and it implements this landing page that you told it to do securely. And then you go to load the landing page and there's an error. And you're like, oh, great. So you copy paste that error back into Cloud Code. We've all been there, right? So you get in this loop where you're debugging. And after, 30 minutes, an hour or so, boom, we get a breakthrough. It actually works. If we're lucky, it works the first time, but usually it doesn't. And usually we have to iterate a couple times, right? We've seen this pattern over and over again. Here's the difference. Most of the time, most vibe coders out there, what they do is they go through that loop and then they just move on. And you just flush that memory so that tomorrow, if you come in and start another session and try to do the same page, you're going to have to learn all those lessons again. It's going to get it wrong. It's going to give you an error. And you're going to be like, man, I feel like deja vu. Like, I've been here. You have been there. You're not going crazy. It's because the LLM has no short term memory. Hey, what is the name of that disease or that illness for the 51st dates? We're gonna have to figure that out. It's got a name, but because I'm gonna make a video about it. All right, now, all right, so we're almost done. We've got a place to store our lessons. Before we start a serious task, we're going to use the advise command, which is going to hydrate our context. It's going to prime that pump, okay, with relevant recent lesson learned. So we're not repeating stuff we learned yesterday or last week or last month, okay? That's key. Then once we iterate and break through a problem and figure out the hard way how to do something, okay? Then here's the most important part. We're going to run this command called retrospective. Okay, the retrospective command is going to go through the whole context, right, of the day's session or whatever, however long you've been working it. You could have been working this a couple days. It's going to go through that whole context and it's going to summarize that into a new lesson inside of the lessons folder. It's going to name it something very short like secure landing page. And inside there is going to be a skill file and it's going to be of the right format and it's all going to happen for you automatically. Okay, here's the name of it. Anterograde amnesia. Okay, we got to get a better name than that, man. It probably means like temporary amnesia or something like that, or recurring amnesia. We're gonna make up a name. I am a doctor, but just not that kind of doctor. All right. So that retrospective command is the magic secret sauce. See, that's like saying, before you go to sleep, okay, make notes of everything that we did today. Okay. Because when we wake up in the morning, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read those notes. I'm gonna read through the last week's worth of notes so I don't have to make those mistakes again. If I had this disease, like that's the way she could solve this problem, right? But that wouldn't make a good script. So they don't do it that way in the movie 50 First Dates, right? He shows up every day, like, like give her a love letter or something. Get a photo of you two together so that you can just show her the photo when you show up in the morning. That's what I'm thinking, right? But like that wouldn't make a good script. So we could do better than that with Claude Code. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down here? Like this is leading edge, bleeding edge stuff that I'm sharing with you here. Okay. There's probably a few hundred people in the world that know about this now. And then plus you guys, right? So like guys, what an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing time to like grab this dragon by the tail and see where it takes us, right? And we're like we've thrown a harness around the back of that dragon. We're up on the ears, holding on, right? We're riding that thing. And most people are just like watching it fly around. They're like, what are those guys doing? They have no clue what's coming. But we know, right? We know that the jobs are going to disappear and it's going to go to the people who are creating these new opportunities. And we want to be one of them. Okay. All right. So 3 parts again: a place to store your library, your memory, your lessons, the advise command kind of before you start work, and then most important one, the retrospective command. Retrospective is a term used in development for decades. It basically means at the end of a chunk of work, we're going to meet and we're going to get in a room and we're going to talk about what went well and what didn't go well. And inside of our retrospective, we do exactly that. Okay. Now, tomorrow morning at 9:15 Eastern, I've got a new video that's going to hit YouTube and I'm going to explain all of this with graphics and everything. Okay. It's a 25-minute video. So if you got a chance tomorrow, I hope you've already subscribed to my channel by now, right? Wink, wink. Give us a thumbs up. That sends the algorithm like a note that, hey, you want to see more of this kind of stuff. And then you should show up in your feed tomorrow morning. You can also hit that alert button on YouTube and it will actually like that little bell icon. And what that'll do is that'll notify you when all of my stuff goes live. All right. And you're going to see in more detail what we're talking about here. But tonight, I'm going to show you underneath the cover of what I didn't even put in that video, which is I'm going to show you the code. I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to show you an example of it running earlier today. Okay. So let's do that. Let's go over. And by the way, if you already are using my Secure Vibe Coding OS, like I know one of the members here, my followers, he's already got 6 projects that he's running on this. Okay. Well, I've got instructions in here of how you can pull these updates and not like crush the stuff that you already have done. All right. So Claude Code can do all this for you and intelligently merge like these changes into your code base so that you don't lose anything. So don't worry. I got you covered. I got you. Okay. Now let's go back and look at the actual code base and I'll drop you into the Claude folder here. Okay. And again, this link is on GitHub. It's open source project. If you're going to be doing vibe coding, you need to learn some GitHub skills. Okay. If you don't know how to do it, jump in Claude and tell it to teach you how to do GitHub. Okay. You need to do that. These are like building blocks. Okay. Now, this is how we share code. This is how we store code. So if something happens to my laptop, I never lose this. It's up in the cloud always. Right. If something happens to me, like this code will be here forever as long as there is Microsoft, and Microsoft owns all of this, right? But they do all this for free. So inside the Claude folder, the .claude folder, very important. Okay, that makes this a project specific Claude file. If you move this folder to your home directory, like on Mac, it would be like the tilde directory. It's a little squiggly directory. You could do the same on Windows. If you move it to your home directory, then all of your projects, okay, will pick up these skills and these tools and agents and stuff. And here's a pro tip for you. If you work in a team environment, you can put that like on a Dropbox, like where you have shared access and everybody can share those skills. You can also bundle all of this up. You can essentially bundle up everything in your .claude. I'm oversimplifying it, but you can bundle this stuff up into what's called a plugin, and you can publish that plugin to a shared drive or out to GitHub, and then you can distribute it that way as well. So this is like you can get a lot of team mode stuff going on here as well. Inside of the Claude folder here, there's agents file folder, and this is where I'm giving you, this is the security batteries I told you that's already coming included. Okay, inside this agents folder, you get all of these security agents here. Okay. And so you could tell Claude Code to execute a comprehensive cybersecurity scan or security assessment. You could just use that phrase, anything like that, and it will invoke automatically these agents because it knows it has them. It has the security batteries included. Out of the box, Claude Code wouldn't know what to do with all of this. Like, it wouldn't know how to do all of this stuff. I've loaded this in here, and I've made your Claude Code smarter just by you downloading the Secure Vibe Coding OS starter kit. Okay, and then what you do is you build on top of that, and you build your landing page and your back end dashboard, and all that stuff, right? That we teach here and teach in my Secure Vibe Coding Masterclass. We start on a secure foundation. That's the agents folder. The skills folder down here has security skills. That's those security batteries I told you about. So inside of here is painful detail, like 1,000-line files, like for authentication, for example, using Clerk, because the system knows that we use Clerk for user authentication. This file goes on for 853 lines. Okay. You don't have to read all of this, and the LLM doesn't have to read all of this. All it reads is this part up here and loads that into the context. That's like nothing. Okay. That's like, I don't know, 20 tokens there. So I don't know, 100 tokens. That's nothing. That gets put in your context, but all these top matter of each of these skills gets loaded in context. Is very small. Then if it needs something from these keywords here, it comes back and starts reading chunks of this file and gets what it needs. It's called progressive discovery. Huge breakthrough. It was like the invention of the year. Okay, I'm not overstating that. That was like the agent invention of the year was Claude Skills. And it was only 3 months ago. Okay, so I gave you all of these security skills. You already had those. But then what I did was I added on top of that these commands here, and I added the advise command and the retrospective command. Here's what the advise command looks like. It's not magic. It's not all that much magic. Look, it's 165 lines, guys. Okay. Here's what it looks like. It basically says important, use progressive disclosure pattern. Okay. Like, don't go read all of those skills. Like, use your built in superpowers, Claude, right? And be very efficient with the context. That's what we're telling it right up front. Then it basically goes through some instructions. This would be like if you had an intern and you sat an intern down, you'd say, step one, we do this. Okay, we have to understand the user's goal, and we tell them what that means. And we say, step two, find any relevant skills using progressive disclosure, right? And we tell it to go scan through these, or not scan through, but use progressive discovery to match any skills from these folders right here. Okay. And then what we do is we present those matches to the user, and we say, okay, hey, you want to build a secure landing page. This is all that I've learned from the skills that I read, including the lessons. Okay, you get that? Including what we learned yesterday, and we did a retrospective on it, and last week and last month. Okay, so we're getting smarter every day. We're not starting from zero each time. Okay, and here's the magic of it. I didn't tell you this. The retrospective will also update the existing skills that it had outside the lessons folder, like the security skills. So if we keep banging our head on something because I've given you like a security skill that is 80% of what it should be, and we figure that out like through iteration, well then wouldn't it be nice if with one simple command we could update that skill so that you don't have to go through that again? Okay. Are you picking up what I'm putting down, guys? Like, this is huge. Okay. This puts you in the top 1%, 2% of vibe coders if you can understand this stuff. Okay, and master it. Okay, then it goes and it gives it just instructions, step 1 through 7. And it reminds it to do context management. Okay. Use progressive discovery. You have to keep reminding the LLM that, or else it'll go off and do something very inefficient. Like, it'll load all those skills up into the context, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Okay, so that's the advise command, but here's the more important one, the retrospective command. Okay, it's a little longer, but and we're not going to go through all of this, but it's going to do what I told you. It's going to do all of this stuff. And it's going to do that lesson learned discovery, and then it's going to create a new skill. And here's what the skill is going to look like. It even gives it a structure. So they all look at the same and they're all usable in that manner. Okay, it's going to record what worked and why and what didn't work in this format. That's very important if you're going to do a retrospective is you have to figure out what didn't work so that we don't do that again. Right? We don't waste that 20 minutes trying to, work through that error because we tried that before. Okay, this is huge, guys. Huge. I can't overstate that. Like, I just figured this all out today and pushed this all up, created a video on it, and now I'm sharing it with you guys. And again, I bet you less than a couple hundred people understand this on the planet. Okay. The fact that we can use skills, that's not new, but the fact that we can use skills to update the skills and therefore fix this, recurring amnesia problem. Okay. Like that's a huge unlock. And this will help us now push our tools forward in a significant leap because we no longer have to worry about like this problem that we got, which is recurring memory loss. I'm so fired up about this, if you can't tell. All right. So here's all of the files. Let me show you what it looks like when you run the thing. Okay. All right. Hold on one second. I was messing with it earlier, and I will just I'm just going to complete that. But what I want to do is come over here and show you like this is my working user vibes OS right here folder. And notice that I have my skills and my lessons, and it's already added 2 of them in here for me today, right? So when you first start this and you first run it, you're not going to have any lessons learned, right? So it's going to be just as dumb as it was yesterday, if you want to think about it that way. But after using this for a few days, you get 5, 10, 20 different lessons learned in here. Then you don't have to learn those lessons anymore. And it gets better and better and better. And before you know it, your Claude code is performing 10 times, 100 times better than everybody else's Claude code because you've trained it. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Guys, this is huge. Huge. I can't overstate that. All right. So here's an example of yesterday. We went through for 2 days. We were banging our head on this modal issue, trying to get a modal to go full screen, which is like an overlay. And it was just kicking our butt. Right. So once I figured all that out and how to do it securely without like opening up like holes in our security posture and still make the API keys and all that stuff work, then I did this morning, I just did this slash retrospective and it went through and it created this whole new skill for me. Let me show you this thing. I just scanned through it just to show you the quality that's in it. Okay. Okay. Open in preview. Check this out, guys. All right. So server side widget security validation. So it goes through like all these lessons learned that we learned. Like we have to do the allow origins configuration. We have to validate the API keys, blah, blah, blah. Right. And like a long text file, AI is cool with that. Like even thousands of lines, it's cool with that. But you don't want it to get too long because it's starting to fill up your context window. But the secret here is that progressive discovery. Okay. So this is the context. This is our system, like our tech stack. Okay. Here's the initial problem that we faced. Here's the constraints that we were working under. And then here's what worked. Here's the actual approach that actually worked in the end. And it's our final state of our code. Okay. And then here down here is what didn't work. Let's see, where is it at? Exact patterns. It just gives you these code snippets, why it worked. Okay. And then here's the failed attempts. Okay. Here's what we tried. Step one, attempt one. We tried this, why it failed, the lessons learned. Okay. Step two, we tried this. Why each one of these represent like 20, 30 minutes of work, in some cases. So look at all these things that we were banging our head on for a couple days. And then now we don't have to try those anymore. Here's the lessons learned. Here's the key insights. Okay, man. best practices, pitfalls to avoid. Don't ever do this in the future. So I should never see this stuff happen again. Like next week, next month, when we're trying to build another modal, it should go like pull this up. If it don't, you better believe I'm going to be pointing to it. Like if I see it doing something dumb, I'm going to be pointing to it, but that shouldn't happen. Okay. And I've already seen the result of like this thing loading because that's what the advise command's about. Okay. Because it goes out and scans these and primes the pump of the context. It shouldn't miss these. Here's the final working solution. Okay. Man, beautiful, guys. And here's the exact hyperparameters. Okay. This is the actual like snippets of the code and what was important. Okay. At a finite detail level. You don't need to understand anything in this file. You just need to understand that Claude helped you iterate through all of these things. And in the end, you never want to go through that again. Okay. That's all you care about. Like, now, sure, over time, this stuff will start to rub off on you and you'll learn some of these things in here. But in the meantime, who cares? We're vibe coders, right? I'm not trying to turn you into like software engineers. I'm not that guy. Okay. Here's future improvements that we can make to this scale file. So if in the future, like if it learns some of this stuff, then you should expect these sections to get filled out. Like, guys, this is amazing. And I'm so excited to see what Anthropic's going to drop like next year. And it's going to just like, we'll look back a year from now and our mind will be blown with how good that year is. Like this year, like this was the year of agentic development and agents taking over like major workloads in businesses and such. And by the way, like these skills work in business, they work in accounting, they work in creating YouTube scripts. How do you think I created that script for that video that I did today? Okay. Like it's already taking over major chunks of work off my plate that I can then focus on things that I want to do or enjoy doing and let the mundane things go to the AI. Okay. That's the state of the art, guys. That's where we're at. And that's what I'm excited to have shared with you tonight. And we're going to go ahead and leave it there. And I'm going to go ahead and close this down, and we can get back to the festives of the night. And I do want to wish each of you a happy New Year and many blessings to come in the new year. I'm excited for the new year. I hope you are as well. And I'm excited to see where this AI dragon is going to take us. We've already tied up our saddle and we're strapped in and we're trying to yank at the ears and see where it'll go. All right. So I'm excited to do that. I hope you guys are as well. Again, if you want to learn more about me, check out that free mentoring up there in the QR code, link in the description. Again, join about 8,000 other people trying to learn this stuff. And then if you need even more of my help, you can learn about my secure vibe coding masterclass up inside the classroom there. Just go click on one of those and you can get access into that. And then you can also find access to my other mentoring groups within there as well. So once again, I just thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. I do not take that lightly. I do not take that for granted, each and every one of you. I appreciate you. And you have a happy new year and go celebrate.